Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX 2 is an extreme sports video game from Activision, using the likeness of the titular BMX star with a modified Tony Hawk's Pro Skater engine. It's the second and last game in the spin-off series, with the 2002 home console versions having a rather strange final challenge. In most other games in the Activision Extreme Sports series, the final challenge is a competition of some kind, or a crazy out-of-this-world final level. After completing every main challenge in the game, a final secret level is unlocked. It's called Tiki Park, a rather ominous area with a huge tiki statue that's honestly hard to get around. It's really a far cry from Tony Hawk 2's Skate Heaven. It doesn't seem like a park meant for riding around, nor is it really a park at all. It's designed as if you're playing a game like Uncharted or Half-Life. Still, we have challenges to complete. Let's get those done. Complete all the challenges in this level, and you'll wake up the beast. This game is now a first-person shooter, and you have to take down the Tiki. It's a simple boss. All you do is run away, hide, and shoot. It's the most basic first-person shooter boss you can imagine, but no other final boss in any of Activision's sports games are like this. The fact that it's here is very, very strange. Final bosses are an integral part of video games. If someone takes the effort to go through your game entirely, you better leave them with a good last impression. However, many games decide to leave players with a confusing and strange last impression. Though, let's not get confused. Weird and strange doesn't mean bad. At least when I say it. There are a lot of weird things that are cool, and also a lot that are bad. So whether they're strange in context, have little to do with the rest of the game, or just plain make little sense, here's a list of weird final bosses, in no particular order. And obviously, there will be spoilers ahead. Deep in Star Fox's Lylat system, there are many strange oddities. After all, your main mission ends with a battle against a polygonal face. But why go after that, when you can go fight an even greater foe? Go into the asteroid belt, one of the game's first levels. Shoot at a specific meteor to reveal a strange alien bird. Now, common sense would say to avoid it, but why do that when we can be irresponsible and chase the bird? Give it a touch, and you'll find yourself out of the main map. There is a fifth dimension beyond which is known to man. It's a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It's the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area that we call out of this dimension. What is this place? General Pepper seems to have lost contact with Star Fox. It looks like Lylat's doomed. We have a very, very trippy universe full of planets with faces, paper airplanes, and the level's boss.
Incoming enemy.
Let's go gambling!
It's a simple boss in all honesty. All you have to do is line up your shots to get a row of 7s. It's much easier than in real life. I tried. Other lineups will send healing coins or enemies to attack. Once you reach that jackpot, that's it. You just get the credits. This is a secret fourth ending to the original Star Fox. There isn't anything after the credits besides an end screen that you can shoot at. There's no way out of this level outside of getting a game over or resetting the game. And considering what's said before this, it seems like this is the bad ending to Star Fox. It's so weird that this is just in a game like this. I wonder if anyone ever accidentally found this on their first try, and assumed that this was the real end of the game. This level is never brought up anywhere else in the series besides being mentioned in the game's strategy guides. Notably, the Japanese one gives a small bit of lore to the area. There was once a pilot named Dessler, who accidentally discovered the bird that transports Fox into the area. He disappeared, without a trace. I like to imagine Fox was secretly a gambling addict, and he actually died and is now in heaven. The Simpsons Game is a 2007 release for 6th and 7th generation consoles. Despite its name and when it came out, the game is far from the first for the series. In fact, there were 20 games that came out before this one. And before you ask, the game has nothing to do with the movie released the same year. No, the 2007 Simpsons Game is a strange platform and beat-em-up that really has little to do with the main series. It instead takes cues from the Treehouse of Horror episodes, the Halloween episodes for those who don't know the series well. It has an odd plot about the Simpsons finding out that they're in a video game and suddenly getting powers and deciding they need to kill God. Yeah, that's actually the plot, I'm not even joking. At first, God is the creator of the Sims games, Will Wright, then they go after Simpsons creator Matt Groening, and then just God. The Abrahamic God is the final boss of this game. But let's go back a little. So after a strange journey which included killing parodies of Donkey Kong and Sonic, the Simpsons and their weird new friends travel to heaven where they first have to fight William Shakespeare for no reason. And then later on, a fight with Ben Franklin because he thinks Lisa is a smartass.
Wow, Benjamin Franklin, you are my intellectual hero. Please, please let us pass so we can talk to God.
No way, Lisa. You're a bigger butt kisser than Thomas Jefferson. Up here, I'm judge, jury, and executioner. It's time you all learned that heaven can be a hell of a place.
And finally, after a whole game of mindlessly pressing the attack button, we fight God. In a simple DDR minigame where you aren't punished for pressing the buttons too early. Yeah, this is a very anticlimactic way to end a game where you fight God. God summons random enemies from throughout the game, and the characters focus on destroying his... God. Prey Station, Exodus Box, and the I Am. All the while a remix of Scorpion's Rock You Like a Hurricane plays. After this, the game ends with a cutscene where the Simpsons are given their wishes. Which we never see come true, so we just gotta assume that they got what they wanted. And we find out that God is a fan of Guitar Hero. Wait a minute, Guitar Hero? Did you know that the original Guitar Hero is going to be 20 this year? For those who don't know, from 2005 to 2010, Guitar Hero ruled the rhythm game genre before swallowing itself whole with over 15 games released in the span of 5 years. They attempted a comeback, and it didn't go well. In the later years of the series, and by later years I mean the last 2 years, the games would try different ways to stand out by adding other instruments and having games that would focus on a single band. For this video, we'll specifically be talking about Guitar Hero Aerosmith, a pretty good game in the series that loosely focuses on the career of Aerosmith, from their start playing in a local high school to their Super Bowl halftime show, and beyond. You play as 2 bands throughout the game. First, every concert begins with you playing 2 non-Aerosmith songs as an opening act, where you can play as the usual Guitar Hero crew. And then, you play 3 songs as Aerosmith. Keep going until you reach the Hall of Fame induction, where something different happens. So, for a little bit of context, in earlier Guitar Hero games, the quote-unquote final boss would usually be a hard song, such as Freebird or Bark at the Moon. Guitar Hero 3, the last main series game released before Aerosmith, would introduce actual battles into the game, where throughout the campaign you battled the likes of Tom Morello and Slash before a final battle with your record producer, who turns out to be Satan. Get it? So, what does Guitar Hero Aerosmith do? The game where for most of the main campaign you play as guitar legend Joe Perry? Oh, it's simple. You battle Joe Perry. Alright, so I'm not talking like a Zelda 2 Dark Link situation where you fight a clone of him. I mean, you play as the secondary main character you choose to be the opening act, and you have a guitar battle against Joe. So the final boss, and actually the game's only boss, is the main protagonist of the game. This is like if you were playing Sonic 2, and suddenly Sonic decides he needs to kill Tails and he's the final boss. Also, in the context of the game world, it's pretty funny. So Aerosmith is being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with other bands, and Joe Perry just decides he wants to challenge the band before him's guitarist to a battle. Then he loses and has to awkwardly perform the next song because Aerosmith is next up to play. All the while, he's using a guitar with a JPEG of his wife on it. Like, it's just a funny situation the more you think about it. The battle itself is kinda cool. So it positions itself like a 2-player battle where both sides have their own board to play notes on. By pulling off certain strings of notes, you gain an attack to use on your opponent wherever you think is best. Unlike the 2-player mode though, is that getting to the end of the song has Joe do a long guitar solo that slowly kills you. They were right when they said rock and roll kills. Guitar Hero World Tour would have Zakk Wylde as its final boss, before future games would just stop doing guitar battles all entirely. Hold up, I got some postscript stuff for you. So apparently, about 2 years after the original game came out, Joe Perry actually played the final guitar battle against him live. Yeah, it was during a show in Costa Rica in 2010. Kinda random, especially because it was so long after the game came out, but it's still kinda cool that we have footage of, Joe actually doing the battle against himself. The only similar thing I can think of is when Mike Tyson fought himself in Punch-Out. I would say the guitar battle was pretty evenly matched, but I think the winner was Joe Perry. Eddy and Eddy the Mis-EDventures is a 2005 console game based off the Cartoon Network show of the same name. The game is actually pretty poorly designed, short, and confusing at times, but as a kid I loved it so much that I 100%ed it and then kept going long after that. And the game does have its fans out there, so the game's 2 final levels can actually be played in any order, so really the game's final boss depends on which you do second. But don't worry, we'll be talking about both bosses here. So, just to give some context of the series, Eddy and Eddy itself is pretty conventional when it comes to plot and characters, with plots not being too crazy in concept, and there being only 13 characters in the entire series. The show would often be outlandish by how characters react to situations and each other, except in the last 2 seasons where crazier things began to happen, although this game came out before the last 2 seasons. The first of the 2 final levels is unique in the fact that you only play as Ed, being the only level without the other 2 Eds being playable. You go through a city dressed as a monster, destroying it all like Godzilla. The level ends with a battle against the Cankerator, a huge 3-headed bastard that looks like a combination of King Ghidorah and the Kanker sisters. This thing is ugly, even for Eddy and Eddy standards. It's not particularly a hard boss fight, you just dodge the occasional attack and throw puffs at it. It's just weird how jarring it is to see this thing. The cutscene establishes that this is actually just the normal Kanker sisters, with Ed imagining all this in his head, but it's just still so crazy and weird. The second final level is Rebel Robot Ranch, a sci-fi themed level where you play only as Double D and Eddy, until the end when you save Ed. It's notable for having different weapons for the 3 playable characters than previous levels. Double D just straight up has a lightsaber here. Like the last level, it's established that this is in the boys' imaginations. The boss is actually mentioned in the show at points, being a movie established in the series, though the robot itself looks nothing like the poster. It's nothing too hard, just deactivate the turrets around it and shoot, but it's just so weird to see a huge robot in an Ed, Edd and Eddy video game. Like, it feels like it shouldn't be here, as if it came from a different game. But at the same time though, it is a reference to the show, and I won't lie, I like it for those reasons. Though, one thing I'll knock against it is that during the actual battle, the robot Rebel itself barely does anything, other than flail around and let its minions attack while very calm music plays. Ganon, the great king of evil from the Zelda series. From his human form, swine form, to any other freaky transformation he has. This guy is almost always the final foe for Link and Zelda, and the CDI games follow this tradition too, despite the fact that they are very strange compared to the other games in the series. Link, the Faces of Evil, has a battle with Ganon that—
No! Not into the pit! It burns!
Oh. Oh. That was it. All you had to do was throw the book at him. And he died in one hit. Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are the 2014 3DS remakes of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. The originals were the best-selling games on the Game Boy Advance, and introduced a few new ideas to the series that future games would follow, one being having more than one rival character. Okay, so, in the Pokemon series, every main series game has at least one character who you start your journey with and acts as a reoccurring boss, but Ruby and Sapphire were the first games to have more than one. Nowadays, it's unthinkable to have only one rival. Your first rival is Brendan or May. Depending on which you choose as your playable character, the other acts as the rival. And then there's Wally, a sick, nerdy kid who ends up being the second rival. The first rival ends up giving up on their Pokemon journey towards the end of the game, before you can see their starter fully evolve. It's a weird choice that the series hasn't done since. The closest I can think of is when Bede is kicked out of the Pokemon League Challenge in Sword and Shield, but even then he comes back towards the end of the game for one more fight. But now we move on to the remakes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So, Steven Stone is still the Pokemon League champion, just like the originals, but he's no longer the main campaign's final boss. Nope, after you beat Steven, your first rival comes out of retirement and challenges you. Alright, here we go. A new final boss, and why is the highest level Pokemon at level 50? And why are the others weaker than that? For context, the battle before this, against champion Steven Stone, his Pokemon were at level 57. Talk about a downgrade, dude. I was even healed between battles. Yeah, the final battle against the rival ends up being a letdown since they're much weaker than the champion you just fought. It's great to see them, don't get me wrong, but it's weird they're now the final boss. I think they should have challenged the player before the champion fight. It would have made more sense that way. You know, keep the strongest guy as your final boss. Welp, time to talk more about Pikmin bosses. So the Pikmin series is known to have weird bosses, with most final bosses in the series being these huge, odd creatures that are larger and much different than the other ones fought before. Pikmin 3's normal final boss is the Plasm Wraith, this huge golden blob that has kidnapped Captain Olimar. It stalks the captains throughout the cavern before attacking head-on. It's a weird final boss, but it's one that is built up to, and isn't that crazy in the grand scheme of things, especially because it's just a stronger version of a boss that was in Pikmin 2. Well, how about we go to the 2020 remaster of Pikmin 3? The one that added 2 new campaigns based off of Olimar and Louie's travels. These campaigns actually make use of enemies not used often in the final game, and even include 2 new bosses. Kind of. In the last level of the Olimar's comeback campaign, we are forced to go face to face with the Golden Arachnorb Duo. It's just the Baldy and Shaggy Longlegged bosses from earlier in the game, but spray painted gold. The feet on these two are a bit bigger, but it ultimately doesn't really make things much harder. And you also fight them one at a time. It at least could have been cool if you could have fought both at the same time. That would have made it a little harder. It's kinda just a whatever fight. I assume it's supposed to be like this big surprise when you see the second one, but it's not hard and you fought these guys before. Pikmin 2 had a better Ultimate Arachnorb form with the Raging Longlegs. One theory I've heard from Pikmin fans, which I have no source for so please take this with a lot of salt, is that Pikmin 3 Deluxe was very much a rushed port because it happened in 2020. Which, some weird things happened that year. And originally there was going to be a much cooler boss as the final one here, but instead we just got this reprint of a former boss. But I have no proof for this, please do not take it as a fact. Also, weirdly enough, these two are the only enemies, bosses or not, to not appear in the game's enemy log. How strange, it's almost like they shouldn't exist. Or they were just really, really rushed. Mario Superstar Baseball is a 2005 sports game developed by Namco, with oversight from Nintendo. The game is actually much more in-depth compared to other Mario sports games, with more playable characters to compensate for the 9 people needed to have a baseball team. To fit this, the game has a chemistry system. Basically, to explain it, if you pair together characters who like each other, such as Mario and Luigi, they'll play with higher stats. Meanwhile, pairing up characters who dislike each other, such as Luigi and Waluigi, will make them play worse. It's a unique feature that adds another layer of thinking when you set up teams. Your team is even ranked out of 5 stars depending on chemistry. Now, keep this in mind. Also, a little side note, what's pretty funny about this is that it reveals unknown relationships in the game. Like, did you know that Diddy Kong and Goomba are friends? I didn't know this. I like to imagine they go out for drinks every now and then, and nobody knows because nobody asks. The game has a campaign mode where you pick preset teams led by Mario, Peach, Wario, Donkey Kong, or Yoshi. You enter a tournament and snag players from other teams to take on Bowser's team as the final boss. But what happens when you beat the campaign on the hardest difficulty? You unlock Bowser's team! Yeah, you go through the tournament playing as Bowser. And instead of Bowser being the final boss, Mario takes over Bowser's castle with the other team captains. Yeah, in what is currently the only time in the entire 40+ year existence of the Super Mario franchise, you play as Bowser, and Mario is the final boss of this game. And let me tell you, man, Mario's team is straight garbage. Listen, I know Mario's a friendly guy who invites his enemies to fun events. But maybe it's not the best to have them on your baseball team. Yeah, so Mario's team is only 4 stars because Wario and Waluigi are on the team. And they aren't exactly friends with everybody. It doesn't completely make his team awful, but it does kill the vibe a bit. Come on, Mario, you couldn't make a better team than this 3-star schlop for a final boss? It ends up being a little easier than the games before this. Still, the fact that you play as Bowser against the Man in Red as the final challenge is super cool. I wish more Mario games would do unorthodox things like this. Sadly, the ability to play as Bowser's team during the campaign wasn't brought back in the game's sequel. Guess that keeps this final boss special. I like to imagine Bowser canonically won the tournament in the original Mario Baseball. I mean, just look at him. He just looks so happy. Okay, this is a little off topic from the boss, but why is King Boo all the way to the left of everybody else? Does nobody else like him? Bowser's just like, oh hey, it's me and the crew! King Boo's here too. The Super Smash Bros. Series is no stranger to hidden bosses. For example, Melee had a bunch from the well-known Crazy Hand and Giga Bowser to the lesser-known Metal Luigi and Giant Kirby fights. The next game, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, had Toon Link, Jigglypuff, and Wolf O'Donnell as fightable bosses after beating the main adventure mode. With its lesser amount of single-player modes available, Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, both of which serve as the fourth entry of the series, would only hold 2 hidden bosses: the returning Crazy Hand, and the topic of this section, the Master Core. During the fight with Master Hand and Crazy Hand on difficulties above 5, after some damage is dealt to the hands, they begin to freak out, with Master Hand opening up wide. This strange swarm appears and transforms the hand into a crazed, violent beast. What it turns into depends on the difficulty, with the higher difficulties having more of these forms. On higher difficulties in both versions, the Master Core turns into a hulking giant. Its next form is a beast that looks like a mix of a canine and a scorpion. After that, it turns into a series of 5 swords that circle around each other and try to cut you up into bits and pieces. After that is the final form, a copy of the fighter you're playing as. It's a one-on-one duel with the person you know the most. Take out that foe and the music cuts, revealing the core itself. It doesn't move, instead waiting for you to attack and destroy it.
Final results.
And that's the battle. Unless you're playing the Wii U version on Intensity 9 or higher. The Master Core turns into this giant fortress. You can hear thumping noises, as if the fortress itself is alive. You fight misshapen forms of the game's normal enemies as you go further and further down this alive fortress. It has 4 hearts. Destroy them all one by one to finally take out this deranged foe. What exactly the Master Core is or represents is never explained. Its trophy description doesn't even tell you anything more than what you saw. This sinister being will appear from Master Hand. A bunch of black objects, called Swarm, will gather and mimic a variety of shapes, changing its attack pattern with each new form. After taking enough damage, it will reveal even more forms. Defeat the Swarm's forms to reveal its true core. The beast does return in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Kind of. Multiple of its forms appear as spirit battles here. But as with the other spirit battles, you don't actually fight Master Core itself. Instead, it uses altered forms of Donkey Kong, Cloud, and Ridley to fight the player. This answers nothing about the Master Core. And that was a list of strange final bosses in video games. What did you think? Are there any I missed? How about non-final bosses that are weird? Tell me in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you liked the video. I'm really interested to know if I missed any cool, odd bosses in this video. I'd say the stranger you can get, the better.